story of Harmony Montgomery gained national attention when on December 31st of 2021, the Manchester Police Department held a press conference asking the public for help in locating her. This wasn't just another missing child. Harmony's story took hold and captivated people all over the world because the police were searching for a little girl who had just been reported missing, and yet nobody could confirm seeing her in over 2 years. Hi, I'm Steph Green, and today we're talking about the story of Harmony Montgomery, who's been missing since the end of 2019. Harmony was born to Crystal Sorey and Adam Montgomery on June 7th of 2014 in Massachusetts. She was a beautiful little girl with blonde hair and a great big smile. Unfortunately, her life would be filled with challenges from the start, including being born with blindness in her right eye. So to help her see, she wore big pink glasses. And being the girly girl she was, they were often paired with Minnie Mouse attire, bows, dresses, and pigtails. She didn't let her challenges bring her down. Harmony's personality was as big as her smile, with people describing her as precocious, sassy, active, curious, and a spitfire. My kind of girl. Sadly, Harmony was not born into a good situation, being the daughter of two 20-year-olds with heavy drug addictions. So by the time Crystal was pregnant with Harmony, she'd been using drugs for a while, and her relationship with Harmony's dad had turned violent. She recalls him yelling, hitting, even choking her while pregnant. Not the kind of environment you want to bring a baby into. So what happened after little Harmony was born? And how did things go so wrong that Harmony was ripped away from her family? By the time Crystal gave birth, Adam was no longer in the picture. But being a mom gave her a new outlook on life. So while Harmony was a baby, Crystal worked to get sober and take care of her little girl. Together, they moved into a sober living program where she got the support and structure she needed and learned how to be a mom.
I'm a recovering addict. When I gave birth to her, I didn't know nothing about being a parent. I didn't know nothing about getting in recovery. But I never stopped trying. I always went into program after program after program, trying to, prove to her and my family that I wasn't gonna stop until I got better.
When Harmony was 2, Crystal had another baby, a little boy named Jameson. And from the sounds of it, Harmony loved being a big sister. She always wanted to help change Jameson's diaper, feed him his bottle. The two were very close. And it's a good thing they had each other because their young life was about to get really hard. For so many, the road to sobriety isn't linear. It's filled with slip-ups and setbacks, and that was the case for Crystal. In July of 2018, she relapsed and began using drugs again, eventually leading to her losing custody of Harmony and Jameson. Together, they were placed into the Massachusetts foster care system, where they cycled through homes. At first, they were able to stay together, and being the loving big sister she was, Harmony looked out for Jameson, refusing to leave his side. Unfortunately, the two wouldn't get to stay together, because in February of 2019, a Massachusetts court granted Adam full custody of Harmony. So she left Jameson behind with her favorite toy, a Tickle Me Elmo, to bring him comfort. Who is Adam Montgomery? And where had he been while Harmony was growing up with her mom? Coming up, we're gonna take a look at Adam's violent past that has many people asking how someone suspected of murder could ever get custody of a child. But first, if you enjoy the true stories of real missing people, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. So, did Harmony's birth inspire Adam to get sober like it had with Crystal? Well, by the time Harmony was born, he'd be sober, but not necessarily by choice. Adam was in jail facing some pretty serious charges. Back on January 24th of 2014, just 3 months before the birth of his daughter, Adam had arranged to meet a man named Robert Jacobs to buy heroin. Instead of paying, he pulled out a gun and demanded Robert hand over the drugs. And when he didn't, Adam shot him in the head and fled the scene. Thankfully, as he pulled the trigger, Robert swatted the gun away. So instead of killing him, the bullet hit his jaw and exited the left side of his face. So a few weeks later, on March 5th, instead of preparing for the birth of his daughter, Adam was arrested and booked into jail on charges of armed robbery and assault with attempt to murder. He was held without bail and ended up making a deal where he was sentenced to only 18 months in prison. So while Harmony was starting out in life and Crystal was working to get sober, Adam would be behind bars. If you're thinking 18 months for attempted murder seems low, you're not alone. How did Adam get so lucky? Was it just his first offense? Oh no, Adam's run-ins with the law didn't start here. His record goes all the way back to 2006, when at just 16 he was charged with possession of a dangerous weapon on school grounds. And from there, each crime was worse than the last. Yet, he continued to just get a slap on the wrist. In 2007, he was charged with simple assault and burglary when he followed a 15-year-old girl into her home, took her cell phone, and told another female friend to punch the victim in the face. But those charges were dropped after he took a no-contest plea. Next, he was charged with criminal threatening and given a year behind bars after he pulled out a knife on his 15-year-old girlfriend. But after 3 months, he was released early. In 2008, Adam was charged with first-degree assault and reckless conduct after he stabbed a teenage boy in the leg and pushed him out of a moving vehicle, all because he believed he was sold fake drugs. He also broke into an apartment and demanded money from 2 women at gunpoint. Adam made a deal for both of these incidents and received only a 4-year prison sentence. And yet again, he didn't serve the full time. In fact, he was out in just over 1 year. Based on his actions, it sounds like we're lucky this violent man didn't kill anyone. Or did he?
You're Adam Montgomery, the prime suspect in an unsolved murder in Lynn.
Well, what an eye-opener this was. What we've learned is that back in 2008, in February 2008, Adam Montgomery allegedly was involved in a homicide in Lynn outside of a convenience store. And what Lynn police are telling me is that ever since, almost from day one, Adam Montgomery has been a suspect in this case. So what happened was a 28-year-old victim here was found shot to death in the parking lot of that, what was once a White Hen convenience store. That Adam and 2 members of his family had crossed paths with the victim earlier in the day and had made plans to meet up again at that convenience store. And the result of that was this deadly gunfire.
How did a man with this kind of violent past get custody of a 5-year-old girl with no strings attached? Who made that decision? And would little Harmony be safe with her father? Or would she just be the next target of his violent tendencies? By the time Harmony was in foster care and the courts were considering placing her with Adam, he'd been out of jail for 3 years. It sounds like after Adam got out of jail, he made an attempt to clean up his life. He married a woman named Kayla, and together they had a son who was 1.5 years old and had another on the way. Kayla's mom has said that at this time, Adam seemed to be a good guy who loved his kids and came off as very charming. But things didn't stay that way.
And Adam, for the first couple of years, was some sweet guy, and he's not. He is pure evil. He is pure evil.
Adam and his family were living in a house on Guilford Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Around this time, New Hampshire was being called ground zero for the opioid crisis. This was putting an enormous strain on the police, first responders, and child welfare services in the state. It also meant that even if Adam was trying to stay clean, temptation was all around him. Temptation he would eventually give in to. So what happened? How could a court decide that a known drug addict with a history of violent tendencies should get full custody of a 5-year-old girl? Typically, we don't know a lot about child services or family court decisions because they hide behind privacy laws, not sharing any information with the public. But because of the attention this story has received, the state of New Hampshire did an audit of their state agency's handling of Harmony's case and released a report with the findings to the public. This has shed some light on what led to the decision for Adam to get custody, and more importantly, what they failed to do to protect Harmony. Because Harmony was in foster care in Massachusetts and Adam lived in New Hampshire, agencies from both states would have to work together. There's a process for this that's been adopted by all 50 states, and the first step is to conduct a home study. So on December 19th of 2018, Child Services in Massachusetts contacted the New Hampshire agency requesting they perform this home study on Adam and Kayla. But because this request lacked the information needed to initiate a home study, New Hampshire sent an email back the very next day asking for that additional information. And they never received a response. So a home study was not conducted. Then in February of 2019, for reasons unknown, without this vital piece of information, the Massachusetts courts just granted Adam full custody and placed Harmony with him without any plan for ongoing monitoring or support. Since Harmony's story broke, Massachusetts has taken an incredible amount of criticism for this, as they should. Even New Hampshire's governor wrote a scathing letter condemning this decision and slamming the agency for their negligence. But just because the fault here lies with Massachusetts doesn't mean New Hampshire's blameless. Their child services agency would receive numerous calls reporting Harmony's suspected abuse, and they also failed to protect her. How did Harmony adjust to life with her dad? Would Adam stay clean for his growing family or fall back into old habits? And what did he have to say when Harmony was later spotted with a black eye? Just a month before the courts granted Adam custody, Kayla gave birth to their second son, making them a family of 5. We don't know for sure if Adam was still sober or where he was working, though it is reported he had a job when he was granted custody. But there are signs he and Kayla were struggling financially, including the fact that they were receiving food stamps. In March, they added Harmony to Kayla's account, increasing the monthly benefit they received. And this would later be used by police to put pressure on Kayla as they investigated Harmony's disappearance. While Harmony was settling into life with her dad, Crystal was still trying to get sober. She was doing her best to work with Adam on visitation and would talk to Harmony over the phone. But on April 21st of 2019, just before Easter, Crystal would see Harmony for the last time over a FaceTime call.
What was the last FaceTime like during Easter of 2019?
Chaotic. He kept muting it. She just looked terrified and lost. Her whole entire body language had shifted in 2 months of him having her. She went from being like my happy, like talkative, funny, sassy little girl to a shell.
Could Adam's erratic behavior mean he's using drugs again? While we don't know for sure, there are signs that Adam was starting to unravel and that his financial situation was becoming more dire. As summer rolled around, his family started to notice that he was selling his personal belongings on Facebook, and they began to express concerns about his treatment of Harmony. Adam's brother Michael would later report to police that during his last visit with Adam, he observed him being short with Harmony and was concerned that he was being physically abusive towards her. But as his family members would express those concerns, Adam would cut them off, refusing to communicate.
Reporter Jason Law spoke with Harmony's maternal grandfather, who told us he reached out to authorities for help.
The system's failed. I have called numerous times. And I have it on my phone.
Jason also spoke with Harmony's great uncle, who reported her black eye to police. The mother of Kayla Montgomery here, that's Harmony's stepmom, says she too raised red flags. And our Bob Ward caught up with Harmony's great aunt, Erin Montgomery, as she was hanging flyers.
My family made numerous reports of concern for her safety, and the system did nothing, and they left her there. It's every family's nightmare, right?
Another family member who has publicly expressed concerns is Adam's Uncle Kevin, and he's had some shocking things to say about his nephew's treatment of Harmony. Kevin told police that he believed at the time Adam had relapsed on drugs, and that the things he saw were so bad he reported them to New Hampshire's Child Services. Kevin claims that he witnessed Adam discipline Harmony in what he deemed to be an abusive fashion. This included her getting spanked hard on the butt, being forced to stand in the corner for hours, and to scrub the toilet with her toothbrush. Then, in late July of 2019, he saw Harmony with a black eye.
Investigators say Adam struck Harmony in the face, causing a black eye in 2019. Kevin Montgomery, Adam's uncle, was visiting the home around that time.
I walked in the house and Harmony had a black eye like you see in a boxing match between two men. He bashed her around the apartment were his exact words.
According to court documents, Kevin says he and other family members made multiple reports to New Hampshire's Division for Children, Youth, and Families.
And I don't know how they missed the black eye that I saw.
Surely once Child Services learned about Harmony's abuse, they took her from her father, right? Wrong. Coming up, we're going to take a look at how the agency responded to Kevin's calls about the black eye, the warning signs that Harmony was in danger, and her last official sighting before she vanished. On July 29th of 2019, Child Services received a call from an anonymous caller who was concerned about Harmony's black eye, the same black eye that her father admitted giving her. This sparked an investigation into Adam, but after the social worker visited his home, they reported that they did not observe an injury on the child consistent with a black eye. Remember, this was a week after the incident, so the black eye had probably faded. Plus, the report says the assessment was done as Adam and Harmony were entering their vehicle and departing, so who knows if the social worker even got a good look at her. That same person returned on August 7th for a full assessment and documented seeing signs of a healing black eye, so it's hard to put much faith in their powers of observation. During this visit, Adam and Harmony both told the social worker that the mark was caused by horseplay with another sibling when a toy struck her near the eye. Between August 7th and October 1st of 2019, Child Services made 3 additional home visits. 2 of them were unannounced, to check in on Harmony and her siblings. They observed that the children appeared to be happy and healthy and concluded that the allegations of abuse were unfounded, but the situation was scored as high risk for future child welfare involvement. So on October 17th, they sent Adam and Kayla a letter letting them know that they were closing the case. This was just 6 weeks before Harmony would disappear. Now, if you just read that timeline laid out by New Hampshire's report, you might think they did everything they could. They checked in on Harmony multiple times, and they would have had no way of knowing Harmony was in danger. I can see how you would think that. That's what they want you to think when you read this report. But let's take a look at some additional information from this timeline. We know that while this investigation was going on, Kayla and Adam got evicted from their home on Guilford Street. The house had been foreclosed on, and in August, it was sold at a public auction. But the family continued to live there illegally after being evicted. And while they were squatting in this house, it was filled with trash, had no electricity, just a gas generator powering a couple of appliances. We also know that Adam and Kayla would get into altercations, which included screaming at each other and the children at 3 a.m.
News 9 Investigates obtained service calls and police reports for that address from 2018 to 2021. Officers were called to that house 29 times. 4 of those indicate DCYF was notified. An incident report from 2019 describes clutter and trash in every room, and power had been cut to the house.
So the police reports say things like, there's trash everywhere, and the area was disheveled, and adults are fighting, and we've been getting quite a few calls about this address. But were these reports by the police mentioned in the New Hampshire audit? No, they were not. Ordinary people were calling the police to report their concerns for these children. Yet a trained social worker was showing up and saying, yep, everything here looks good. Based on the reports by the police, they had to have known the family was living in the home illegally. Not to mention it was full of trash, didn't have working electricity, and the owners were up playing music and fighting at 3 in the morning. There were so many signs of drug use by the parents here. Were they drug tested? We don't know. That's not in the report either. But Child Services simply closed the case with no follow-up. In fact, it was 2 days after they sent the letter to Adam on October 19th when Adam's uncle Kevin would request a police escort to go retrieve some belongings from the house. The police report documents seeing Harmony during that visit. And over 2 years later, when they would open her missing persons case, they would use this as the date of Harmony's last official sighting. So what happened to Harmony after Uncle Kevin saw her for the last time? And what story did Adam start telling people about why his daughter was no longer around? After receiving notice that the U.S. Marshals were coming to evict them, Adam and his family finally left the house they'd been squatting in on November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving. By this time, Adam had completely cut off communication with his family. Kayla had asked her mom if they could move in, but was told her lease wouldn't allow it. So with nowhere else to go, Adam and Kayla, who was 7 months pregnant at the time, and their 3 kids were homeless, living out of 2 cars in Manchester's North End. At first, the police didn't know if Harmony was still with the family, but later discovered one additional sighting of her after they left the house on Guilford Street. Kayla's mom, Christina Lubin, remembered seeing Harmony when the family stopped by on the day after Thanksgiving. This was the only time she'd ever met the little girl.
She looked clean, she didn't look any bruises or anything. Extremely polite, very cute. She pretty much sat on the couch. It was very brief.
And as far as we know, that was the last time anyone besides Adam and Kayla saw Harmony, because by the time Christina saw the family again on December 6th, Harmony was gone. So how did Adam and Kayla explain Harmony's disappearance? Kayla said that sometime during the week after Thanksgiving, Adam said he was going to drive her to Massachusetts to Crystal's house so she could go live with her mom. The next week, when Christina sees Adam and Kayla without Harmony and asks where she is, she's also told that Harmony went to live with her mother. And given their situation, it seems believable. So that's where Christina thought she was, until December 31st of 2021, when Harmony's disappearance made front page news. So what brought Harmony's case to the attention of police? And what made the police so desperate that they had to enlist the help of the public? 2 days before the press conference that brought Harmony's case to the attention of the public, Crystal sent an email to the mayor of Manchester with the subject line, "My daughter is missing/in danger and DCYF won't help." In it, she details how she can't find her daughter, who's supposed to be in the custody of her father, and how, despite a number of red flags, Child Services is not helping her. She ends her email by saying, "Please, I'm begging for help in finding my daughter," before she ends up like that little boy who just passed away due to neglect through the department. And she said that her next step is to go to the media. Crystal was referencing Elijah Lewis, the 5-year-old boy who just a month before had been found dead in a Massachusetts state park after New Hampshire's Child Services contacted police letting them know they were unable to locate him. Elijah's death had already caused public outrage directed at the child welfare system's tracking of young children. While Crystal received a pretty generic response to her email, what she didn't know is that behind the scenes, things were already happening. Maybe it was the reference to Elijah Lewis or the threat to go to the media, but something in her email must have struck a chord because the mayor's office forwarded it to the Manchester Police Department, who, just over a month before, Crystal had already contacted to report Harmony missing. According to the police, she had reported that Harmony's father, Adam, had sole custody, but she hadn't seen her daughter in over 6 months and believed her to be missing. In response to that call, the police reached out to Child Services, alerting them to the concerns that Harmony was missing and asking them to look into it. Child Services began their own investigation, and when they too were unable to locate Harmony, they contacted police to express their concerns for her safety. And on December 27th, this call is what triggered the police department to open an official investigation into Harmony's disappearance. They put out a bulletin so the entire force was on the lookout for Adam. And that very day, officers began interviewing family members, asking about Harmony. So by the time Crystal's email was forwarded to them the next day, they were already beginning to realize that nobody had seen or heard from this little girl in over 2 years. And it was knowing that they were so far behind in finding out what happened to Harmony that pushed them to hold the press conference on the 31st and enlist the help of the public.
Nobody's seen this young girl since late of October 2019. That's why I'm here today, because we need assistance, we need help. That is kind of why I wanted to do this, all right, to bring the focus to this little girl right here. I'm imploring, I'm asking, I'll go as far as I'm begging the community, all right? I don't care if you saw this young girl a year ago and you think it's irrelevant. Call us and let's chase down every possible avenue with the hopes of finding Harmony.
While the police look for Adam, all eyes turn to Crystal. Why was she just now reaching out for help to find her daughter? Police had to look at Crystal and see if there was any truth to Adam's story that he took Harmony to live with her. Crystal claims that Adam never even contacted her, let alone brought Harmony to her home. During their investigation, the police talked with Crystal's boyfriend who backed up her story. He lived with her at the time and said that Harmony never came to stay with them. In fact, he'd never even met her. But why wasn't she looking for her daughter before now? It turns out Crystal had been looking for Harmony all along.
Everybody out there who's following this case, the big question is how could 2 years go by before anything was done about Harmony's disappearance?
When you're an addict in recovery, and you've lost custody of your child, but you have visitations, they don't listen to you. They look at you like you're an addict. I know what all I did to try and find her and report.
Since 2019, Crystal says she's called Child Protection Services in both Massachusetts and New Hampshire more than 24 times.
It was the summer of 2021 when Crystal was finally able to track down Adam. At first, she thought he was just blocking her from seeing Harmony to be vindictive. So she reached out to his family for updates, but he had cut them off as well. So she continued her search, and eventually she discovered that he was living in a sober house in Manchester without Harmony. And that's when she realized something was very wrong. If Crystal didn't have Harmony, then Adam's story didn't line up. What did police have to say when they were finally able to track him down? And what part of their interrogation was so unsettling that they now feared for Harmony's life? On December 31st of 2021, the police were finally able to locate Adam. By then, he had split with Kayla, and the police found him and his new girlfriend sleeping in their car on Harville Street in Manchester. 3 of the lead detectives on the case showed up to ask him and his girlfriend about Harmony. The girlfriend claimed that she'd been involved with Adam for a year, and while she was aware that he had 3 children with Kayla and another from before that, she claims Adam had never spoken about Harmony, and she had no information about where she might be. So what did Adam have to say? Where did he claim Harmony had been for the last 2 years? At first, Adam told them Harmony was fine and that he'd seen her recently. But when they pressed him for more information, he changed his story to say that he had not seen her since Crystal came and picked her up around Thanksgiving of 2019. As the detectives continued to press, emphasizing that their primary concern was finding Harmony to verify that she was safe, he would stop answering questions, claiming, "I have nothing else to say." They noted that Adam didn't express much emotion or reaction when they told him that they were concerned about whether or not she was even still alive. He just stuck by his claim. He believed she was with her mother and repeated again, "I have nothing else to say." After that, he refused to provide any additional information or speak with police, simply stating, "If I'm not under arrest, I'm leaving." Sounds like a concerned father of a missing child to me. What an absolute piece of garbage. The police weren't impressed with Adam either. So 5 days later, they arrested him. They still didn't know where Harmony was or what had happened to her. They were very bothered by the contradictions in Adam's story. Mainly that he told them Crystal had come and picked up Harmony because he told everybody else that he had driven Harmony to her mother's house. Because of this, they didn't want to risk Adam running free. So they had to come up with a lawful reason to detain him. Using Harmony's black eye that had triggered a child services investigation back in 2019, the police were able to show probable cause and charge Adam with second-degree assault. He was also charged with 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child and 1 count of interfering with custody. Because of their concerns over this case, Adam was denied bail, and at the time of this recording, he's still in jail. Adam's luck with the law had finally run out, but was it too little too late? Perhaps a clue could be found at the Guilford Street house where he used to live. And what lie would police catch Kayla in, implicating her in Harmony's disappearance, and eventually leading to her arrest? Coming up, we're gonna take a look at the last leads police and the FBI have left, and what horrific thing Crystal thinks Adam could have done to Harmony. Their conversation with Adam raised more questions than it answered. So on January 4th, the Manchester Police Department and the FBI decided to search the home where Harmony last lived, the house on Guilford Street, to see if it offered up any answers. By now, the house had new owners who were living there, but thankfully, they were willing to work with the police, allowing them to do a thorough search of the home and whatever else was needed to look for Harmony. For 2 days, law enforcement searched the house, even setting up a system to thaw out and search the backyard, digging up any areas of interest, but nothing was found. Their next best lead was Kayla, who was the only person besides Adam to shed some light on what happened to Harmony over the last 2 years. When the police initially made contact with her on December 30th of 2021, she was no longer with Adam and hadn't seen or spoken to him in a while. Apparently, the 2 of them had split back on March 21st of 2021 due to domestic violence. When the police asked her about Harmony, she repeated the same story she told her mother, that right after Thanksgiving in 2019, Adam drove her to Massachusetts to go live with Crystal. And after that day, she never saw Harmony or heard Adam speak about her again. And yet, Kayla continued to claim Harmony on her food stamp benefits, all the way through June of 2021. When the detectives asked about it, she acknowledged receiving the benefits for 1.5 years and said she tried to remove Harmony from the account but was unsuccessful. Further investigation revealed notes from Kayla's caseworker that contradicted that claim and raised some suspicion. In January of 2021, while renewing her benefits, the caseworker noted Kayla seemed confused about whether or not Harmony lived there because she goes to her mom's every other weekend. It wasn't until 6 months later that Kayla actually removed Harmony from her account, telling the caseworker that she had moved back with her mother. These discrepancies were enough for the police to arrest Kayla on January 6th and charge her with felony welfare fraud for having claimed over $1,500 in fraudulent benefits. So did getting arrested and thrown into jail put pressure on Adam and Kayla to talk, give the investigators more information on Harmony's whereabouts? Unfortunately, no. Neither are talking, but the police continue to hope they will, and that one will turn on the other. For now, all the police can do is continue to investigate the case. They've been appealing to the public in hopes that someone will come forward with information about Harmony. And there's a huge reward. It's currently at over $144,000 for anyone who provides information about what happened to Harmony. There's also a 24-hour hotline, and any tips can be called or texted to 603-203-6060. Could all of this have been avoided if Harmony was just allowed to go live with her little brother? And is it possible that she's still alive? A few months after Harmony was placed with Adam, Jameson left foster care to live with Blair and Jonathan Miller, who planned to adopt him, making him their 3rd adopted son. In November, Jameson's adoption became official, and a story about it ran on the local news where Blair is an anchor. So why is this important? Well, It's Crystal's theory that Adam saw this and got the idea to do the unthinkable.
I feel like she's still here. I would know, and like I said before, a mother knows. I think he sold her because the same week that they're saying this happened, the day after Thanksgiving to December 6th, was the week after my son legally got adopted on the news. So he saw that, and I really think it's connected. I think like he got that idea from seeing that and was like, oh, I can do it illegally, you know?
What makes me the most angry about this story is that after news broke that Harmony was missing, Jamison's dad did an interview where he revealed that they had reached out to Child Services and expressed interest in adopting Harmony, along with Jamison. They wanted to keep the siblings together. So here we are today, wondering what happened to this adorable, sweet little girl. Did her own father do the unthinkable and sell his child for drug money? Or did a man known to have violent tendencies snap and harm this poor, defenseless 5-year-old? I honestly don't know which of those two options is worse. And now, we know that if the people who were tasked with watching out for her, to be the safeguards so this kind of thing doesn't happen, if they had done their job, they would have seen the numerous reasons why Adam was an unfit parent and why the situation she had been living in was not a safe or appropriate environment for her. And on top of all of that, they had a safe and loving home they could have placed her in. A home where she could have had the chance to grow up with her little brother who she loved, where she could have developed a relationship with her mother who is now sober and actively improving her life, where she could have just had a chance. While Harmony's story has been covered by every major media outlet, one that very few people are talking about is the story of Michael Vaughn, a little 5-year-old boy who mysteriously vanished from his home one summer afternoon. Did he wander off and get lost? Or was something more sinister at play? And do his parents have something to hide? I'll put a link to that video here.